Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a special Tuesday night edition of Vols Society Live. My name is David Morrison. I'm the Vols Society lead analyst here on the Vols Society Network. And we're here on a Tuesday night to talk a little Tennessee basketball for you. We're going to preview the upcoming Tennessee basketball season tonight. We're going to preview the Vols and Lady Vols for you. Just want to thank everybody tuning in last Saturday night for the Tennessee-Alabama post-game show. We recapped that Tennessee-Alabama game. So if you're on here tonight, kind of want to get my thoughts on that, just go back Saturday night in the archives. I had myself, the founder, Brad Frank, was on there. We broke down that game. And then also the podcast just launched about 30 minutes ago on our Vol Society page. We had myself, David Dees, and myself, Brad Frank, obviously, which Brad is in the chat right now. Definitely so. And now we're going to be talking about some hoots. That's all right. I see Brad's in here. Michael says give a big shout out to the offensive line to keep getting bad pass, but blocking their butts up. And now basketball. I'm sorry. No, you're good, Michael. That's fine. Like I said, I wanted to talk some basketball tonight. Like I said, I want to break down this team. Like I said, we're playing UT Martin this week, and I thought this is an appropriate time, but it's all good. And if you do drop a football question, that's fine. We'll go back and we'll put it in later on. But let's go ahead and talk some basketball tonight. I'll go ahead and pull up the banner here. Tennessee men's basketball preview. So kind of starting recap from last year. Tennessee went 27-8 on the season, 14-4, won his first SEC tournament championship for the first time since 1979. Rick Barnes entering his 8th season with a 150-81 record. Tennessee ended up getting bounced out of the NCAA tournament to Michigan last year in the second round. But there's a lot of promise coming in next year for this Tennessee men's basketball team. So let's talk about who's moved on from this basketball team before we preview who's coming back. So obviously Kennedy Chandler, no longer with us, went to the NBA draft. He is now on the Memphis Grizzlies. So happy for Kennedy Chandler being a first-round draft pick. Our John Fulkerson, who was here for a long time, has now graduated. I think he's now playing some pro ball overseas, so wish John Fulkerson the best. Had a lot of players hit the transfer portal. Victor Bailey Jr., grad transfer, which we knew he was going to transfer eventually. He is now at George Mason playing with former volunteer assistant coach Cam English in the George Mason Patriots. Brandon Hulley Hatfield, he hit the transfer portal, probably back in December, I believe. He's now at Louisville. Justin Powell, who transferred from Auburn a couple of years ago, had a lot of promise coming in to this Tennessee basketball team, particularly his three-point shooting. Just never worked out. He's now heading to Washington State, so we wish the best with him. Some others, Tomba going to Weber State, Brock Jancic, another grad transfer, heading to ETSU, playing for another Vol assistant coach, Desmond Oliver. And then Tennessee lost an assistant coach who got promoted to a head coach, Mike Schwartz, now the head coach at East Carolina. So congratulations to Mike Schwartz, all that. And so happy for him. So that's who's no longer on the Tennessee basketball team. Hello there, Timothy. So take a look at the transfer portal. Tennessee didn't really was focused on the transfer portal for basketball this year, which is a little surprising. But they did pick up a couple of guys. Tyreek Key from Indiana State. He played his high school ball in the state of Tennessee. He's 6'3", 205-pound guard. So he's I think he was obviously the leading scorer in Indiana State, but definitely I think he's also the leading scoring leader. I believe they're in the Missouri Valley Conference. So we'll see what he can bring. I think he's going to bring a lot of points in for the Vols, but like I said, bringing a grad transfer in implemented to this lineup should be quite interesting to see. And then another guy, Colin Kanye, a 6'10", 225 forward from Mary Washington guess college. That's kind of the second transfer portal. So I was a little shocked that Rick Barnes didn't really go aggressive in the transfer portal for basketball this year. But then again, you do look at the freshman class as we make the transition over. That does add a little bit of depth and some excitement. So we start with five-star forward Julian Phillips, 6'3", 230-pound, five-star from South Carolina. Very, I remember the day that he announced and we promoted on Ball Society. It became a top trending post for ours. So I guess pat on the back for us a little bit there. But it was such a great pickup for Tennessee as far as basketball goes, especially because I talked about how the transfer portal didn't really go aggressive. BJ Edwards, another freshman coming in, 6'1", 165-pound guard, three-star player from Knoxville, played at Knox Catholic. He's been committed for a while to Rick Barnes. Excited to see how he's going to fit in there. I expect to see Julian Phillips and BJ Edwards to play a lot this upcoming season. For basketball. DJ Jefferson, another player coming in, 6'5", 185-pound guard, four-star from St. Paul, Minnesota. Like I said, I really love all three of these freshmen going to be implemented in. Like I said, you did lose Kennedy Chandler, Justin Powell, a lot of guys. Just a just adding that depth in. And Michael says Huntley Hatfield was a good piece. Yeah, he was, and I'm kind of surprised that he transferred. I know there was him and Rick Barnes didn't really get along at times, and then it finally seemed like he finally caught on. But maybe going to Louisville, kind of a fresh start. And then Toby Akawa, I hope I'm saying that name right. 6'1", 165-pound guard from the Bronx, three-star guy. Like I said, we'll see what he does. I'm not expecting a whole lot from his first year there, but we'll see what he can do. So let's talk about who's coming back for Tennessee. Let's start with Josiah Jordan-James. I'm very excited that he's coming back. I know him and Santiago Vescovi both went to the NBA Draft Combine to see where they were as far as the NBA Draft Board goes. Wasn't ranked very high compared to Kennedy Chandler, and both came back. But Josiah Jordan-James is going to be a senior next year. Just had a great Tennessee career, averaging 10 points a game, 6 rebounds, an assist. I believe I think this is kind of a typo because I got this from ESPN. He says he's the leading block returner, averaging only 1. I was thinking Uris was, but I guess not. Anyway, so he shoots 32% from the 3-point line, 38% field goal percentage. We know what Josiah Jordan-James is going to bring. He's going to bring leadership to this team. He's going to put up. He really got red hot in the SEC tournament, and then going into the NCAA tournament. I'm excited to have that leadership on the court. Like I said, you kind of never know what you get with Josiah Jordan-James. He may go out and put 25 on, and then he may just only get 8. But hopefully that hot streak he had in the tournament going in to the NCAA tournament will transition into the next season. Santiago Vescovi is coming back. Averaged over 31 minutes a game, 13 points, 4 rebounds. Team best 40% from 3-point land. Another guy that I'm excited to see. I know another time when we posted that he was coming back on Ball Society, a lot of fans were excited him coming back. Very popular player for the Cincy basketball team. Like I said, you add that 3-point shooting, and I want to see Santiago really feel confident in his game. I know we know he can shoot from the outside, but I want to see him be more of a floor general out there, attack the basket. I know we're about to mention this next guy that's definitely attacks the rim very well as far as the point guard position goes, but I want to see his game really flow very well. Like I said, you got Josiah going to be that leader on the court, kind of directing traffic besides the point guard. But then you got Santiago. I want to see him really flow in his game, improve probably his assist a little bit. I know he averaged 3 a game last year, but maybe he can build it up a little bit and, maybe he gets to the NBA. I know definitely he'll be an international player, and that's not to disgrade his dreams of getting to the NBA, but he does have that connection playing from Uruguay. All right, Zakai Ziegler. Zakai Ziegler was really the breakout star last year on this Tennessee basketball team. 8 points a game, 2 assists, 35% from downtown, 49% field goal percentage. A very popular player on this Tennessee basketball team, along with Santee and Triple J. I love Zakai Ziegler. He has kind of had a terrible offseason, with his mom's house burning down. But then the Vol Nation came together on the GoFundMe account and helped get Zakai Ziegler's family moved out, I think, from the Bronx to Knoxville, bought a new home. So what was a tragic story has turned into a blessing, and, very happy for Zakai Ziegler as far as that. And I expect him to really improve his game too uh, as the season goes along. He's definitely going to be that starting point guard for Tennessee, um, along with, I believe, Santee, Josiah Jordan James, and then uh, well, it depends on the next guy I'm about to talk about here if he's back from injury. But like I said, he's going to be the floor general on this court, and I expect a lot of, hopefully, some up tempo offense. I know Tennessee is a very defensive minded team, uh, but I want to see Rick Barnes really get up tempo with Zakai Ziegler running the point. I mean, if you get him and Santee going, I think you could put up a lot of points. It's just, do they have the confidence of letting them just run free? And hopefully they do. Olivier Comwa, so he's coming off an injury last year, missed a good chunk of the season, and he was red hot before his injury, especially at the time where our offense was really struggling. Uh, and Olivier was just doing everything he could, and then he got injured, and then guys like Plosics and, of course, Folky kind of filled the void. But I think Olivier can really have a breakout season once he's returned back 100% healthy. Um, Believe it or not, he's shot 44% from the three-point land. So that's really good as far as that confidence of 3 points go. But, of course, we also saw last year, we live by the three, we die by the three. There's a lot of games where we could have really executed that 3-point game going, but just really couldn't click it at times. But I really like Olivier. Hopefully he's 100% healthy. Uh, he can get physical in the inside and also go to the outside and knock down an open jumper. So we'll see what I'm not sure the timetable right now when he's supposed to come back, but I'm sure as soon as possible. And then Uros Plavish, another guy that's, like I said, he came along, uh, really had significant playing time down the stretch late in the season. Had a pretty decent NCAA tournament and even SEC tournament. Uh, this was around the time when Folky, there was the controversy when Rick Barnes benched Fulkerson, and then you put Ploshich in, and it's like, do we really trust Ploshich? And, he went through his growing pains kind of being that starting center, and then when Akamwa's injury happened, Folky came back into the lineup, and then Plosic really found his groove going. He's very physical presence underneath the basket. I want to see him kind of fill that role as Yi Pons. A couple of years ago, this team didn't really have a lot of block shots last year. I want to see Plosic kind of fill that Yi Pons role of just being an enforcer underneath the basket, be physical, get rebounds, box out, uh, block some shots. I mean, he's 7 foot tall. You got to be physical underneath the basket. Just don't get lazy underneath there. So hopefully Plasic can get there. Some guys that might get some playing time, I'm not sure yet. Jamon Mishek and Jonas Adu. I expect to see these guys early on in the season, and I'm sure along with the freshmen, and you'll probably see guys like Kent Gilbert or somebody like that, you'll see probably 15 guys early on in the season, and then of course once SEC play going, then you'll have your typical 8-man rotation. It's kind of how we see it along the way. But if I had to go ahead and kind of get a starting five going here, projection, I say Sagaz Sigler will be the point guard, and then you'll have Santee running the shooting guard, Josiah Jordan James probably your small forward, and then Ploshix will be your center, and then depends on Akamwa's injury. If Akamwa doesn't go, I expect to see the freshman Julian Phillips to kind of be that number 4. Uh, and you can kind of bounce it around however you want to. You might put Josiah Jordan James at the 4, put Julian Phillips in the 3. It's just going to be interesting to see what Rick Barnes does, going throughout this season here. Some big games to watch out for, and let's look at the schedule here. Tennessee plays an exhibition game on October 28th against the number 3 team in the nation, Gonzaga. That's going to be in Frisco, Texas. That's going to be on pay-per-view. And this game does not count in the win-loss column, but this is a good test to see how Tennessee stacks up against the big boys right away, even though this game doesn't count in the win-loss column, but a good test here for the Vols. Their opener is November the 7th at home against Tennessee Tech. And then some of the other big games, I didn't write down the whole schedule, but, some of the more familiar teams to Vol fans. November 13th, they play Colorado in Nashville. That concludes that 3-game schedule series with Colorado and Tennessee. 2 years ago, played in Knoxville. Last year in Boulder. Now finish it up in Nashville. And then Tennessee will play in the Battle for Atlantis tournament down in the Bahamas. Our first round opponent on November 23rd will be Butler. So a good test for the Vols right there. And then the next day we get the winner of USC and BYU. And then the next day we'll meet Wisconsin, Dayton, NC State, or the defending national champion Kansas Jayhawks. So like I said, building those resumes early on for Tennessee in November, with Colorado, and then all these teams in the battle for Atlantis. Like I said, Tennessee should have an high RPI, the KenPom ratings and all that should be very high throughout all the season. Like I said, here's an opportunity for Tennessee to get a good head start as far as climbing the rankings and being high on the RPI levels and stuff. Tennessee's preseason rank, forgot to mention, is number 11. They announced that the other day. Moving on into December, couple big games. Tennessee playing in the Hall of Fame Invitational in Brooklyn, New York against Maryland. So Maryland's kind of a sleeper team in the Big Ten. A lot of the Big Ten media experts says they'll be good. Some not buying it, but still, it's a brand name, and like I said, another resume builder. And then December 17th, Tennessee will head to Arizona, concluding that home and home series that started last year. Arizona is number 17 in the country. Remember last year when Arizona came to Knoxville, they were undefeated and kind of shocked the college basketball world. They got so hot so quick because they had a first-year head coach. So that's going to be a tough environment going down to Arizona. That's one of the tougher places to win in college basketball. So I expect to see a competitive game in that one. So moving on. Let me back up here. Last non-conference game I want to focus on the SEC Big 12 Challenge on January 28th. Tennessee welcomes in Texas. Remember last year Tennessee went down to Texas, played the Longhorns. Fortunately, it was a loss. So now the rematch 15 years later. 15 has been kind of a big number this week. Texas and Tennessee from Thompson Bowling Arena in the SEC Big 12 Challenge on January 28th. That's on a Saturday. Texas preseason ranked number 12. We'll see if they're still ranked once we get down to there. So we move on into SEC play. SEC conference schedule actually starts like late December. Believe it's the 26th, I believe, right before we play Texas, I believe. And I believe our opener is against Ole Miss. But some of the key SEC games, obviously, everybody looks at Kentucky. So January 14th, we host the Kentucky Wildcats. Kentucky preseason ranked number 4. Oscar DeShiway, the reigning SEC Player of the Year, returns back for the Wildcats. Of course, Calipari's back also, and they got a pretty solid team themselves. But January 14th, we get them at home uh, on, and that's the night that we will retire Chris Lofton's jersey. So congratulations to Chris Lofton uh, for a great Tennessee career, and going to be a special day. And then February the 18th, we go to Rupp Arena to take on the Wildcats. The other big one, Auburn. Auburn preseason ranked number 15. We have a home and home with them this year. February the 4th in Knoxville. I will be at that game, the Auburn Tennessee game. And then on March the 4th, we will head down to the jungle to take on Bruce Pearl's Auburn Tigers. Alabama, we will play them the day after Valentine's Day, February the 15th. Their preseason ranked number 20. They got a great freshman recruiting class that came in for Nate Oates. This is going to be a tough game, a tough home environment. But hey, if we can beat Alabama at home in football, let's beat them in basketball this year. A couple of tough road environments that we'll have to keep an eye out on. February the 1st at Florida. I think that's going to be a tough road game. And here in a few moments, I'll talk about the new coaches here in the SEC because Florida's got one. But there's a lot of excitement on this Florida team, kind of an underrated team in SEC. And then on the 21st of February at Texas A&M, Buzz Williams probably has his best team right now, even though they're not preseason ranked. But I expect that to be a tough road game for the Vols. I'm not really projecting wins and losses just yet, but like I said, that's going to be a big key matchup. And then the last game I want to mention on the schedule, February the 28th, at home against number 10 Arkansas. To me, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Arkansas are, in my opinion, the 3 best teams in the SEC as far as men's basketball goes. That's going to be a 3-way battle all year. And they got great players all the way around. I think Alabama is kind of a sleeper team also, but I think it's going to come down between the Wildcats, the Hogs, and our beloved Tennessee Volunteers to win that regular season SEC crown. And of course, Arkansas has been a great tournament team since Eric Musselman has been in Fayetteville. So I mentioned, I'll go ahead and tell you this. The SEC tournament will be back in Nashville this year on March the 8th to the 12th. Last year was in Tampa, I believe, and now it's back in Nashville at Bridgestone Arena. All right, so new coaches in the SEC. There's been a bunch of turnover as far as SEC men's basketball goes. We'll start with Florida. Mike White left the Florida program to take over the Georgia program. So Florida had to look for a new coach, so they pick up Todd Golden from San Francisco. He was the head coach of the Dons for 2-3 years from the West Coast Conference, the same conference that Gonzaga plays in. Kind of an up-and-coming program, and then, like I said, Todd Golden, a very young coach. I think he's like 35 years old. An up-and-coming name in college basketball, and now taking his first big program in Florida. Mike White actually recruited fairly well when he was down in Gainesville. Just never really got wins. So a lot of people says Todd Golden is going to take this team and really turn it around, and maybe Florida be a test. We'll see. Mike White takes over at Georgia. He replaces what's his name? He just slipped out. Tom Crean. Took over Tom Crean. Very weird move that Mike White would take the Georgia job. Now, Georgia basketball is not where it should be. Or it don't really have the strong fan interest compared to football. But, it was kind of a head-scratcher move that Mike White would leave Florida and take a rival school job in Georgia. And that's going to be very interesting the first time that Georgia and Florida meets, especially if they meet in Gainesville. But we'll see how Georgia goes. I'm not expecting much from them. LSU got a new head coach as finally old Will left Baton Rouge. He finally got canned. So Mike McMahon takes over. He's a former Murray State coach. Matter of fact, he has Tennessee connections. He's a former grad assistant coach under the Buzz Peterson regime. Like I said, he coached at Murray State. I think he coached with John Morant when he was at Murray State, if I'm not mistaken. So he now takes over at LSU as our buddy Will's now gone. Mississippi State, sad to see they let go Ben Holland. I like Ben Holland. But Chris Jans now comes over from New Mexico State. Um, New Mexico State was one of those teams that felt like they made the NCAA tournament every year, and everybody's kind of picking them as an upset pick, and they really never went much. But I mean, if you take a team to a tournament, it's impressive year after year. So we'll see what Chris Jans does in Starkville. Conzo Martin, former Tennessee head coach, was let go at Missouri. Dennis Gates comes in from Cleveland State University. He was kind of a hot name coach, and matter of fact, Georgia really wanted him at one time, but now he's at Missouri. And then finally, as we wrap up the men's preview, South Carolina picks up Lamont Paris from Chattanooga as Frank Martin was let go. Frank Martin, took South Carolina to the Final Four, but they have not been back to the NCAA tournament since then, so they made the change. And now Frank Martin's at UMass. So Lamont Paris comes over from Chattanooga. I'm very familiar how Chattanooga plays. They had that great NCAA or that great SoCon final where they won at the buzzer and then made the NCAA tournament and lost to Illinois. But that's kind of a look at men's basketball, especially with Tennessee men's basketball team. Expect a great season from them. Like I said, it's just going to have to come down to, can Tennessee, advance further in the NCAA tournament? We've been the Sweet 16 before, almost got to the Elite Eight. We know Rick Barnes can get there, and we love Rick Barnes, but can he finally break on through? And maybe with the good momentum we've had with baseball and the football team, maybe we can have a deep run in the NCAA tournament. Like I said, he finally got us an SEC tournament championship, and let's see where else can we go from there. All right, so the second half of our basketball preview, let's talk about the Lady Vols. So a lot of high expectation for this Lady Vols basketball team. Kelly Harper entering her fourth season. And I think this is the best team she's had. So last year, the Lady Vols went 25-9, 11-5 in SEC play, lost in the Sweet 16 to Louisville. And now they're preseason ranked number 5. And today was the SEC women's basketball. I guess you can call it media days. I think they call it tip off something. So Tennessee was projected to finish second in the SEC behind South Carolina. A lot of high expectation for this Lady Vols team that we haven't seen since Pat Summitt was our head coach. So Tennessee Lady Vols didn't really lose a lot. Lost one player to the transfer portal and then 2 for graduation. So Ray Burrell and Lexus Dye both graduated. I liked both of those players when they were with us and wish them the best in the future. Ray Burrell actually she got drafted to the WNBA draft. And then Emily Saunders, former Tennessee Lady Vol, now at Youngstown State. So wish her the best as she proceeds on. Yeah. Michael says coming in number 5 preseason. New players for the Lady Vols. This one I'm very excited about. 5-star guard forward combo, Justine Piscott from Toms River, New Jersey. I'm very excited to see her play. I think she can possibly hit that starting lineup early on. She's got a great game to her. A lot of hype coming into her. The best best high school player in the state of New Jersey. And like I said, the Lady Vols picking these best players from each state and bringing them here to Knoxville. So, like I said, Kelly Harper knows what she's doing on that. And then Edie Darby, Tess Darby's sister, 5'7" guard from Greenville, Tennessee, coming another new player for the Lady Vols. So happy to see her playing with her sister. Bringing some. I'm sure it'll bring some great memories for her in her Lady Vol run. Tennessee, we talked about Rick Barnes didn't really aggressively attack the transfer portal. Kelly Harper did. She went to the transfer portal, picked up three great players. We start with Rakia Jackson, 6'2" forward for Mississippi State, now as a Lady Vol. A 5'6" guard, formerly from Minnesota, Jasmine Powell, and then a 6'5" forward formerly from the Georgia Bulldogs, and Jillian Hollingshead. So this is adding depth to this Lady Vols team that last year, depth really took a hit when Maria Suarez, uh, tore her ACL early on in the season. We had a lot of young players that had to get thrown into the fire early on. So this adds some experience, even though, like I said, this is a new team and kind of a new uh, atmosphere for them, and probably a little bit of a new style of play. But they've been through the conditioning and through uh, the women's basketball way of living. So uh, kudos to Kelly Harper for really attacking this transfer portal very well. All right, so who's coming back to the Lady Vols? Jordan Horston returning back, averaged 16 points a game, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. I think she's a strong candidate to win SEC Player of the Year. She really had some great games for us. Also, another player got red hot in the NCAA tournament. A great leader. Tamara Key is also back. She's going to be right there in the middle. She's going to be mixing it up. 12 points, 8 rebounds a game, average 3.5 blocks. And, when we talk about the men's, I wanted to see Juris Plavich really kind of be that Ypons role. He could also kind of be that same role Tamara Key is doing. Just be a distributor underneath the basket. I really like Tamara Key in the way she plays. And she also got like a 58% field goal percentage. So, hey, can't beat that. Jordan Walker, she's a transfer portal player from last season from Western Michigan, averaging 7 points a game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Like to see her really improve that up. My favorite Lady Vol last year was Sarah Puckett. So when Suarez went out with the ACL, we saw players like Sarah Puckett, Tess Darby, Brooklyn Miles, Carolyn Strickland really kind of had to fill those minutes up. And Sarah Puckett just really just took that role very well. A freshman last year, 43% from field goal percentage. I think she can have a breakout season. I cannot wait to see what she can do for this Lady Vols team. So go, Sarah, go. Mentioned Tess Darby, her little sister now playing for us. Tess Darby didn't miss a free throw last year. She had 100% free throw percentage. That is very awesome. And she played a lot last year. So definitely something to keep an eye on. I don't know if she can duplicate that next year, but keep that in the high 90s for us. Uh, Mar Suarez, I mentioned her. She's coming off the ACL injury. Not sure when she's coming back since it happened in November. Could be early on. It may be an SEC play. Just depends on how long the ACL heals. But I'm sure she'll be coming back pretty soon, and she'll be welcomed back with open arms. Brooklyn Miles, mentioned her. She, like I said, when Suarez went out, played in 33 games last year, shot 38% from the field, averaged about 19 minutes a game. I'm sure kind of similar situation with that. And then Caroline Strickland, I expect her to play a little bit. So preseason number 5. Looking at the rest, there was only 3 teams ranked in the preseason top 25 in the SEC. South Carolina, obviously, be number 1. Don Staley and the Gamecock team, just year in year out, always one of the best. And then Kim Malarkey's LSU Tiger team. I think they were like number 21. LSU's, I think, I wouldn't say a sleeper, but definitely a team that's on the rise. Especially, I mean, Kim Malarkey won a national championship at Baylor. Uh, I expect her to do great things at LSU. Matter of fact, in I had them going to the Final Four last year in the bracket challenge for the women's game, and didn't really work out well. But it is what it is. All right, so looking at some big games for the Lady Vols, they get started off red hot on the road at number 14 Ohio State. I think this is a game that Kelly Harper needs to get a big win on the road, make a statement right away. Tennessee does fairly well on the road against non-conference opponents. Like I said, I expect them to pull a easy. I wouldn't say pull an easy win. I expect them to put on a great performance early on. Couple of home games. Uh, November the 14th, home against Indiana. And then December the 4th, they're playing Virginia Tech in the Jimmy V Classic. And then the Lady Vols are also playing in the Battle for Atlantis. I couldn't find a tournament bracket for that. That was kind of weird. But I know they're playing Kansas on the 19th of November. And then a couple of our big rivals. Uh, December the 18th at Stanford. We always play Stanford about every year. Uh, Always great competitive games when we play each other. And then one of the games that Lady Vol fans always circle on the calendar, the UConn game on January the 26th. Uh, this is kind of, if you want to compare it to football here, this game and the South Carolina game coming up on February 23rd is very similar to Josh Heupel and the Volunteers meeting Florida and Alabama this year. Those are going to be two strong home court advantages. And like I said, I think those are two games that Kelly Harper needs to get wins in to really elevate the Lady Vols program back to its preeminent status. And it's funny how the football program and this Lady Vols program going hand in hand, kind of the same year as far as programs on the rise and are they back? And I think that this UConn game is big. Unfortunately, UConn lost their best player, Paige Buck. They call her Paige Buckets, but Paige Bucherts. She tore her ACL, so tough break for Gino and UConn team. I know we're rivals, but you hate to see a star player in women's basketball go down like that early on. So I wish her speedy recovery, even from a Lady Vol fan. Uh, Looking at the SEC schedule, uh, December 29th and January the 19th, play Florida, home and home series at Florida, the first meeting, and then in Knoxville on January the 19th. Florida is kind of a sleeper team in women's basketball. At the end of the month in January, LSU in Baton Rouge, so taking on Kim Malarkey. Going to be a tough environment. Should be a fun game, especially, and you got two big personality coaches in Kelly Harper and Coach Malarkey. Ole Miss on February 2nd. At Arkansas on February the 16th. It's going to be a tough environment. A home and home series with Mississippi State January the 5th and February the 6th. And then the big one, I talked about UConn's a big home game. Another game you need to circle on your calendar. February 23rd in Knoxville, taking on South Carolina. That could be your SEC regular season championship matchup right there. If the Lady Vols put up some big wins and they're near the top of the SEC on the 23rd, that's going to be a huge matchup. And I know the Lady Vol fans are going to be showing out for that, but we gotta sell Thompson Bowling out that day when South Carolina and the Lady Vols play, especially if we're near the top five. It's going to be a crazy environment. It's going to be a lighter, tamer version of Tennessee, Alabama, but still should be a great home court advantage. And then we wrap up the season on February 26th against Kentucky. So that's kind of a Tennessee basketball preview for both men's and the women's. A lot of high expectations for both teams. You got two great coaches in Rick Barnes and Kelly Harper who have great visions for this program, doing a fantastic job getting the support from Danny White and even Donnie Plowman and Randy Boyd. Um, just great excitement. Like I said, I know this is right in the middle of football season, and we just come off the biggest win in 15 years. But we've seen Tennessee. We're seeing Tennessee sports peaking at the right time, whether it's football, baseball, and now I think the basketball program can get in that same direction. Um, I expect to see the Tennessee men's basketball program to have a solid season, get to the NCAA tournament. But this Lady Vols program reminds me a lot of the football program, what we're seeing. Like I said, Josh Heupel, an up-and-coming coach. He's been here less than Kelly Harper. We already know Kelly Harper's story being a former Lady Vol player, but a young, energetic coach that's relied on uh, a team that kind of wasn't his originally, but has grown him into a top five program. I think Kelly Harper has the players and the tools and the coaching ability to take this Lady Vols program to get where the football program is. And I'm excited to see this Lady Vols program. I mentioned the games with UConn and South Carolina, both at home. I think they can be similar situations to Alabama and Florida as far as home field advantage or home court advantage in this case. Uh, Excited to see. So that's kind of a quick preview. Well, a good 40-minute preview. We kind of split it at 50-50, talked a good 20, 25 minutes about the men's program, and then the rest of the show, the Lady Vols program. So that's going to wrap it up for Vols Society Live, a special Tuesday night episode. There's no show tomorrow night. It's UT Martin. But if you want to get our thoughts on that Alabama victory, please make sure you listen to good old Rocky Talk. I'll go ahead and post it right here on the ticker. Available on Amazon, Spotify, and Apple. And like I said, we recap that historic game for y'all. And then we'll be back here on Vols Society next Wednesday night as we'll preview Kentucky. Also, go back and listen to the Saturday night episode of a special Vols Society Live as we recap that Alabama game with myself and Brad Frank. So that's your Tennessee basketball preview for 2022-2023 season. Like I said, thank you for supporting Vols Society and watching us across our social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. It's been a great Tennessee athletics season. Let's hope basketball brings us great memories like the football team has, and even last year to a certain extent. So we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for joining us on a special Vols Society Live, and we'll talk to y'all next week right here on the Vols Society Network. Have a great night, and go Vols.